Andrew Reese.
I'm back. I'm back.
Where have you been?
Well, I moved and we've been a little busy here. So got a couple closed something yesterday. A condo in Rosemary. Not a little rough transaction, but we got it done. But yeah, we're back in action. So got a lot of new changes coming up right now.
Well, today's video is all about the updated paperwork for the buyer broker agreement. So effective August 6th for the Sarasota board, we have to start using agreements. So we're going to talk about that today, give you the updated information of what's new in these documents.
Yep.
I've got a few videos in my playlist kind of prefacing the reason behind these and kind of the generalizations of buyer broker agreements and showing agreements. And now that it's swiftly approaching, it's right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, the gist of it is this. If you're a buyer and you're working with a realtor, in order for the realtor to ensure that they're going to actually make any money, number one, and number two, in order for them to even show you a property, you're going to have to sign a buyer broker agreement. Now, this is new to Florida. It's not new to most of the country.
Right.
Like I know that when we bought a property in Chicago, I know that when we bought property out in Las Vegas, it's very common. Like, you know, this is something that's been done in most of the country, but it is new to Florida. So it is definitely a huge change, but the gist of it is ensuring that, one, the agent gets paid, and two, making it very clear about who is representing whom.
Right.
And what I mean by that is, if you're a buyer that's trying to use 3 or 4 different agents, first off, it's really counterproductive, and second off, it really creates a mess when you finally do find the property that you wanted, because you're going to have a bunch of agents arguing over who should get paid on this. So it really clearly defines and eliminates all of that gray area, and it says, I'm your agent, especially when I'm showing these properties, and if we part ways, then we'll part ways at this time, and so on and so forth. So.
But it also gives the buyer an opportunity to sit down and discuss like what we are actually going to do for you to earn that. Okay, in the past, agents, and I didn't make a practice of doing this, but like my services are free. Well, technically it's baked into the price, and it kind of always has been for many, many years. Right. So for the last 11 years, we've had quite a run up, right, in real estate, generally speaking. And so, you know, buyers didn't have to worry about that unless, you know, a lot of agents that we do know, or not a lot, I should say, a small fraction in our area that always did use buyer broker agreements.
Sure.
But again, it sets a tone for what you can expect as the buyer.
Sure.
So I think the $1 million question when people want to know as a buyer, if I'm the buyer, I'm going to say, why would I sign this? Like, I don't want to pay 3%. Number one, these are the most important things that you need to know as a buyer. There's several in here, but it says in the Coldwell Banker revised buyer broker agreement that we are obligated, if we're representing the buyer and the buyer's best interest, to seek that from the seller.
So it's our job to make a fair and honest attempt to seek that from the seller. Now, you're going to have people, because of these changes, you're going to have listing agents and you're going to have sellers that are going to say, no, we're not paying the 3%. If that happens, it's our job to go out and find out that information. It also doesn't obligate you as the buyer to go see the property or to buy that property. So, you know, what's going to eventually end up happening is, over time, people that are trying to say, well, we're not going to pay the 3%, or the listing agents that are taking listings at a 0% for the buyer's agent, they're going to find nobody's going to come and see their property.
Well,
or very few people anyway.
There's a few avenues also. So like, I don't just take it for someone to say at one time, right? If they say 0, okay, well, before they really want to see this property, would you sign an agreement for this buyer that you would pay X%, right? I mean, I personally charge 3% per side. That's my fee. And I'm going to tell you why as we get into this video too. I've got more details as to why we charge that. But it doesn't mean that you're going to have to pay it. So I'm going to ask the seller first, even before we show it. And the buyer also in this agreement can say, it's the line item in page 1 here. Don't show me properties that are offering less than
3%,
2%,
3%.
Okay,
the whole thing.
We'll go show everything offering at least 2%, and guess what? Everybody else, sorry.
Well, let me just say this: if I'm the buyer right now, if I'm a brand new buyer, which by the way we did just buy recently,
yeah, you did.
But if I'm a buyer right now, my immediate thing would be, I'm not paying a penny of this.
Right.
This is absolutely and always has been the seller's responsibility to cover the commissions. So why would I, as the buyer, eat any portion of the commission at all?
Well, okay. Well, what I'm planning on doing then is I'm going to offer whatever the original offer would be less my commission. It's going to be baked into the price, right? So I'm going to offer this much because seller, you're not offering. Well, we have to make up for it somewhere, and this is how we're going to make up for it.
Yeah, you have 2 or 3 different ways of slicing that, but I would say that's a very dangerous game you're playing in the sense that at the point that if you're a buyer, you've already signed a buyer broker agreement with your agent at 3%.
Yeah.
Then they're going to get their 3%, whether you buy it or don't. You know, if you buy that property, they're getting paid their 3%. So the easier thing to do is to tell your agent, only show me properties where they're going to pay the 3%.
That's your
because I'm not going to eat it.
And it's not unethical because you as the buyer doesn't have a fiduciary duty of any kind
to go see a property
or regardless.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed. It has to be buyer driven now, though.
Right.
So the buyer is going to be the one who's saying, I'm fine with it. I'll pay the 3% myself because I think that property is worth going after. Or don't even show me properties that are where I'm going to be paying the commission because I'm not going to pay that commission. So there's going to be some moving parts to this on the front end that if you're a buyer traditionally in Florida or prior to this,
you're not growing pains.
A little bit of growing pains, but in the big scheme of things, you know, generally speaking, when I go to show property anyway, I usually call the listing agent just to see if there's any
feel it out.
Yeah, just to get a feeling of where they're at. Do they have a whole bunch of offers in hand right now? So like
probably not right now at this market.
No, but I'm saying I want to know if I'm going to a really spectacular property and my client's really excited about it. Before we get there, you know, I want to know, do they have 3 all cash offers over asking before I walk my client in here and they're like, well, I can't pay over asking. Just so that everybody, I want to be as transparent as I can. I want to set expectations. I want to be as transparent as I can, and I want to have all the most updated information.
And that's something that is part of our value proposition. And you're seeking information that's not readily available to the public.
Right.
Another point I wanted to bring up before bringing up more of our value proposition was, let's say the buyer says, well, I don't want to sign 3%, but I only want to expose myself to 2%. The issue with that is if I now show you a property that in fact the seller is offering 3%, but our buyer broker agreement only says 2,
I can only collect 2.
I can only take 2 unless another document is signed where the seller agrees to that in advance and it's signed. But then I'm only exposing myself to I'm exposing myself to a discount when I know how hard I work and you work for each and every buyer.
Right.
We make it look easy, and so by the time we show up to your property that they're ready to buy, it looks way easier than it was. You don't know how many properties Andrew showed. You don't know how many hours he spent on the phone drive. The knowledge that you have, you're not paying for the 25 years combined experience. You're paying for it to be a seamless transaction, to get the best price and the terms possible for you as the buyer.
You're getting somebody with market
seamlessly close without issues.
You're also getting people that are, you know, we work full time in real estate. We spend hours and hours negotiating property, and more often than not, there are 9,000 realtors in Sarasota and Manatee County. More often than not, the person that we're negotiating against has 0 experience. More often than not.
And it's like I did a video with a local roofing company, Trust Roofing. So check out that video, by the way. He's like, and we had such a great conversation on video, which you'll see. And he said, listen, we're not going to be the highest. We're not going to be the lowest. But I'll tell you what we will bring. You're going to get communication.
Right.
You're going to get quality control. The workers on site have health care. They are working for the company. They're not outsourced. You're getting a whole team, and it's not just about the high quality product that you're getting. And so I think there's value in that. And I'm not about to spend the cheapest amount of money for the most expensive investment in my entire life normally that people buy.
You don't, generally speaking, you're going to hear people say all the time, oh, well, I bought a property, I didn't use a realtor, or I sold a property, I didn't use a realtor. What they're not telling you is what would have happened had they.
Right.
And so it's the information you're missing, because I've had people say, oh, well, I sold my property, I don't believe in realtors, I sold my property. And I'm thinking, the first thing that pops into my mind is, had you used a realtor, you very likely would have gotten way more money and had somebody who represented you that negotiates all day long on real estate and would have gotten you a lot better price than your property.
Yeah, I mean, and like, they could have had a great experience, but it takes the one experience that you lose all this time, money, and effort, right? That would make up that difference.
Sure.
I mean, my parents have bought and sold properties on their own too, and they've had great experiences. But just that one experience that we as negotiators can make up that difference in your pocket. At the end of the day, people care about their pocketbooks, and also simultaneously having a wonderful experience. One that is not just a one and done. Like, we want to earn your business for life. The way that we do that is with our value proposition. Before I get into that, though, they do have another option. So there's a buyer broker agreement. Now you can, and there's a showing agreement. So the showing agreement is just for like one property or multiple just specific properties. Right. Meaning
if you call me up,
sign something.
Yeah, meaning if you call me up and say, listen, I'm only in town for Saturday, I have these 3 properties I really want to jump into, but I don't want to sign a long-term agreement with you.
Yeah,
but
I
just want to go see these 3 or 4 or 5 properties. Can you get me into them? Sure. You sign that agreement. You're only obligated. We're only committed to each other on the properties that I show you, versus a buyer broker agreement, where if we sign a long-term 1-year buyer broker agreement, or 6 months, or whatever the time period is, then there's an obligation between each other for that period of time.
But it doesn't give the buyer the right to go and look at it with me, for example, and then go and call another realtor to write it up. That's not fair to me. So in essence, these documents are good for the realtors who are professionals and show their value and present that to the public in that regard, because we don't just open doors and then that's it. And so there's value in that. And so there are going to be a couple of different options, but it will be required effective for our MLS, effective August 6th. Now, the national date deadline is August 17th, but all boards are different. Real estate is hyper-focused.
Yeah, but let me say this too. Like, I I have been using buyer broker agreements going back some time. Admittedly, because I had people that I went and showed property and they just cut me out of the deal, and then it becomes a huge nightmare of trying to deal with who should get paid and when they should get paid, and so on and so forth, procuring cause and that whole thing. So I've been using them in the past. The ones that we have that are coming out now are a little bit more legally binding, so they're certainly a little bit more serious in nature, and a little bit more binding on both sides, both for the seller or for the buyer and for the realtor. So I just think that, like, there seems to be this notion that this is going to be a big, terrible, awful thing. And I think it's going to be a little bit more work. But the agents that are working full-time in real estate are already doing already doing most of this work anyway. So it really isn't that big of a hiccup or a change. And quite frankly, I think as an agent, just me personally looking at it, I think it's going to be better, because I can negotiate and be assured that if I go show you 15, 20, 30 properties, that I'm actually going to be paid on the back end of that. And it allows me to know kind of what I'm working. I know exactly what everybody's in it for. From the very beginning.
And it's not just like the public information that's out there when you're fighting to negotiate for our buyer. It's like the off-market sales, the in-house sales that we are very privy to, because we are an exceptional office. We have the highest market share office. And we have a lot of talk within the office. There's a lot of inside deals that happen before they hit the MLS, because we have that 24-hour period. There's all the other off-mark websites that we have access to.
Well, there's also, like, if you're not transacting a lot of property, you really aren't going to have a feel for understanding of the market. So and I love this example, because we have a neighborhood on Longboat Key where we've sold a couple of properties. We know the market extremely well there. There's a property right next to a property that we sold. It's overpriced by $700,000.
So bad.
And the realtor they're using is the daughter of the owners.
Sitting, shockingly.
She lives in Tampa or St. Pete or something.
How are you going to show the property?
She doesn't. Well, first off, she listed it at 2.5%. So you have a lot of realtors that are going to be like, I'm not showing it for 2.5. You have a lot of
And it's already overpriced.
It's already overpriced.
Like, what's the incentive?
Even if somebody did come in and make an offer on it, there are major inspection issues with this property, to where like you would never be able to get the transaction done anyway. So really, all you're doing is just wasting everybody's time. And so, and the fact and the fact that I know what the issues are with the property, and I shouldn't know that there are these major issues, but I do, because we know that market, we know that neighborhood.
We walk around the neighborhood.
Yeah, we're knocking on doors, we're talking to the neighbors, we know exactly what it should be priced at.
Neighbors like to tell on their neighbors
all the time. So and so I don't we know what it should be priced at, what it would sell at, and what it would take to get that from where it's at now to closed and sold.
And that's all baked into pricing and the value and the value you bring because of the knowledge.
Right.
So hitting on that, like just a few of these points, our commitment to excellence. I'm so committed when I sign a listing agreement. First of all, this is just a breaking news announcement. All my listings are offering my buyer's agents. We love you, buyer's agents.
Absolutely. 3% always.
Call me. It's all 3%.
If you see my name on a listing,
it's a strong listing.
It's 3%.
Strong.
We're selling at 3%. And full disclosure, I make 3%, and we offer 3%.
But guess what? I'm busting my butt for my listings because now they're taking longer. That's just the market. So I'm working 2-3 times as long and hard and spending more money and sweating for my sellers. This is normal. Right. I know what normal is because I started in 2002. And the commitment to excellence is what? Overall expertise. A long tenure in this business of expertise. Not only that, but we are surrounded with people that have been in the business 30, 40 plus years. Okay, so we're constantly learning. We have the platforms from our office, which is the #1 market share office. So we're constantly learning, evolving. Communication excellence. Like, I cannot tell you, like, as soon as I have a listing or we have a listing together, we start a group text, and if something comes up in the market in their neighborhood, one goes pending, one sold, they have links, they have all the marketing that we're doing. We're in constant communication with our sellers so that when we need to lower the price or there is an offer, like they are 100% caught up to where we are.
They understand everything that's happening with the property.
Yes.
Even to the minute. And what I mean by that is I have an automatic email that goes out that shows this is how many people viewed your property. This is how many people saved it as a favorite. This is where those people come from. Then throughout the week, I'll touch base with, hey, look, I called the people who had saved it as a favorite. One of them is interested in coming for a showing, or, hey, most of the people who saved it as favorites are people who just live in the neighborhood and are just trying to keep an eye on what's going on.
And the same for buyers, because we're talking about the buyer-broker agreement. It's the same thing. We have a portal that we create for you, and there's services that we offer leading up to even signing this, right? Because really, technically, it's my understanding anyway, there's some talk about this, that even setting up a portal, you need this sign. I kind of disagree with that. I don't think that's really, it's technically if you're starting to provide or you're engaging in with a realtor to provide a service, but this is required before touring real estate, right? So the services we provide go to the buyers as well in terms of what you said, the communication excellence. Pricing expertise is on both sides. It's on the seller side, obviously, but obviously pricing for the buyer, now there's more inventory. So if I'm working with a buyer, I am fighting down that price for you all day long, right? You talked about negotiation, knowing how to negotiate. Listen, if you had a great transaction by yourself and you did your own walkthrough, your own inspection, and you didn't ask for any repairs, you could have been leaving $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 extra on the table. 100%. That comes in during the negotiation period because it's all still throughout the inspection period. You're still negotiating. Marketing and exposure, legal protection. So I don't know about you, but I feel so strongly about my value proposition that if they're not happy at the closing table, I'll be like, if you're not pleased with everything that I just said that I would do and then not did something, I will take a reduction in my commission at the closing table.
Sure.
And I feel that strongly about it. Has anyone ever done that?
No.
No.
Because we're putting the work and effort in and we show our value. But I don't, I feel like it's just critically important right now, if you're coming in as a buyer or you're coming into the market as a new seller, that you really understand, this is how this is going to work. Because if you're a seller and you're thinking, well, I'm just going to save 3% in this whole transaction, okay, you can do that.
You'll
you have the
be
right to do
sitting
that.
a long time on the market unless you really underprice your property.
Yeah. How many realtors do you know that want to go work for free? That's what you're really asking people to do, is you're asking the realtors to work for free. Okay, so none of them are going to do that.
Because effective August 6th, so the public knows, and this is maybe all good because look at, we're educating the public about, so effective, okay, August 6th, I'm going to go show a property. It's because it's not August 6th as of the day of this filming, 2024. I can go in and say, what's the commission here? August 6th, that goes away. So imagine going to your roofing job saying, I'm going to put this whole damn roof on here, and oh yeah, we were going to pay you $0.
Right. You're
stuck with the bag. You're holding the bag.
Yeah. So you can't.
So
you have to understand. $0. You have to understand that, the realtors on the front end are going to have this agreement signed. They are going to, but they're also going to make a fair, honest effort to collect that from the other side. I think that over time, what you're going to find is that properties that try to pull this and not offer the 0%, offer 0% to the other side, they're quickly going to find out, well, gosh, all the properties around me are selling. How come mine isn't? And eventually they're going to be like, oh yeah, I better offer the 3% or else I'm not going to get sold.
Even if it's less than 3%, we're still going to ask for 3%. I know I am. Sure. But put yourself in our position as a seller. Okay, seller, put yourself in a buyer's agent position. We're out here sweating. Sure. Showing these people all these properties. Who knows? Some of these people show them from Tampa to Port Charlotte, and they're driving all day long. They're busting their butts to sell your property, and you don't. And by the time they show up to your house and they're ready, it probably looks like it was so easy, but you don't know that. Right. It's just not the way the reality of it is. Sure. And look at all the options they have now. Right. There's a lot more options.
Well, it still doesn't eliminate. You're going to have, if you're a buyer's agent, you're going to have buyers that come into town
and don't do anything,
and they look at 15, 20 proproperties and they don't buy, and they don't buy. So that's baked into it as well. But listen, I think that's a really good overview of kind of where we're at, and up to date, and where the market is going to be going with these buyer broker agreements. I'm available if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out to me anytime on my cell phone. My cell phone number is 941-586-2460.
And I can be reached on my cell, 941-544-7690. Thank you for watching, subscribing. Yep. Reach out to us. We are here to help serve you in your real estate needs for a lifetime, hopefully, and your referrals. They mean a great deal to us. So thank you, and tune into the next video.